And the three of you in the room who haven't written a book yet, meet me outside by the bins. We'll start a non-writers club. I feel left out now, DE and I. Changing gears, we're going to move to something very different. I've been affected by Mark's echo chamber comment, and I think we're going to now break the echo chamber by introducing Kirk. Kirk is the head of creativity development at Google. We're very happy that he's here today. I've had the privilege of hearing Kirk firsthand a couple of times before, and each time I've walked away with a hell lot of inspiration. I hope he passes that on to you today as well. Please give a big round of applause to Kirk.
Thank you. If anyone does have a mansion in the Chilterns, like that's children free and wants to rent a desk to me, I'm a willing customer. So, when we're faced with a problem, a challenge, an opportunity, our brains are brilliant at giving us an answer, a solution in which to deal with that situation that we're in. The watch out is that our brains being driven by a desire for efficiency means that those ideas are almost always based on how it was tackled in the past, or something a bit like it. For me, creativity is just about disrupting that autopilot thinking to develop more options in which to work with than to make decisions. More new options, better, more confident decisions. My name's Kirk. I help people use creativity to solve problems, challenges, or opportunities in different ways. I do that in two ways. I assist with projects, so specifically when a team realizes that they're in that autopilot way of thinking and they want to develop new potential options to help them get out of it. But I also spend a lot of my time training people and teams on the skills and the techniques, but crucially the behaviors and the mindset that are needed to help us to come up with new ideas to solve the stuff that we're working on. Also, how do we create the right environments that allow us to think a bit differently and to get out of that autopilot pilot brain? My day job's at Google, but when time and compliance permits, I'm very fortunate to partner with other organizations. I advise Adidas on how to disrupt themselves and lots of other organizations around the world, and I'm also very fortunate to apply my passions to the world of elite sport. Whether it's a good thing or not at the moment, I don't know, but I work with the England football and soccer and rugby teams to help them, I guess, outthink the opposition. How do we create competitive edge by thinking about things a bit differently? I'm also proud to have mentored Shanae Miller-Weibo, the current 400-meter Olympic champion, to think differently in order to regain that title. So that's me. Hopefully you feel in safe hands. But let's get into that point about that autopilot brain, if you like, that desire for efficiency that leads to us coming up with sort of ideas that are often based on how things were done in the past. I've lost, if we could click on, if anyone could assist me here. Here we go. So we're going to play a game, okay? So interactive moment. If you're joining us virtually, you can type into chat and we'll hopefully relay a few of your answers. But this is a team effort, okay? We're a team right now. We've got 30 seconds to come up with as many uses for a paperclip as we can as possible in 30 seconds. You don't have to write them down, you're just going to shout them out, okay? And if you're joining virtually, type them into chat. So 30 seconds, uses for a paperclip. Go.
Pick a lock.
Pick a lock, brilliant. Okay, I'm going to come back to you. There's something special about you, but I'll come back to you. Anyone else? So this is my apologies. You followed my request and you've all shouted out. We'll go here.
Satisfy an itch.
Satisfy an itch, brilliant, lovely. As long as it's close, it can't be too far down the back.
Replace a lost button.
Replace a lost button, beautiful. Any others?
Fishing hook.
Fishing hook, lovely.
Jewellery.
Jewellery, there you go. Someone will be disappointed with that gift, but nonetheless, I didn't say it had to be good. It just had to be an option. Yeah, at the back.
Clipping paper together.
Thank you. The amount of groups I do this exercise with who don't say the use of a paperclip to clip paper together, although some would argue that isn't the obvious use for a paperclip anymore. What's the obvious use? Toothpick. Oh my gosh, toothpick, and what do we have here? Right, to get the SIM card out of the iPhone, you know. Some people will go, they've never seen a paperclip used to clip paper before, but get the SIM card out of a cell phone device. Thank you. Oh, go on, one more. A shoelace. There we go. Yeah, there we go. Brilliant. I like that. There. I'll stop you there. And I don't know if we. Thank you if you contributed online. The chat feed isn't being looked at right now, but we'll make sure that we validate your input. The pick a lock. So just so you know, the use of a weapon or anything or to commit a crime is the number one answer given by psychopaths and high performing CEOs. So you're in good company in either way there. But thank you for playing along. That was a game that NASA invented in 1967 in order to test the creative capabilities of their employees. Okay, so over 50 years ago, it was, you know, they thought that it was just something you had or you didn't, you couldn't train it. Absolutely, that's not the case. But back then, that was it. It was 5 minutes actually, on your own, number of uses. They tested all of their employees. It was a test developed by two scientists, George Land and Beth Yarman. And there you go. And then they had all that data, and they were able to then just categorize their employees and rank them and give them sort of, you know, profiles. And there was a number of uses of paperclip that you could come up with in 5 minutes, that if you got that number or more, you were classed as a creative genius at NASA. And not many people got that level. That was the sort of the bell curve that they were going for. Why do not many people get there? Because guess what? We are hardwired against coming up with new or different ideas to solve the situation we're in. Our history, our relationship with the item or the challenge that we're working on means that we struggle to look at things very, very differently. Let me give you a metaphor just to bring this to life. So Edward de Bono, who many of you will have heard of, Six Thinking Hats, one of his best-selling books, the godfather of lateral thinking, self-titled, but bless him, actually passed away a couple of months ago, unfortunately. But one of his less-known metaphors, and apologies if you've heard me speak before, because you will have heard me talk about this, because it really is the hero theory of everything that I believe leads to us thinking differently. He says, imagine your brain is a mountain. On the day you're born, it's untouched, unspoiled. From that day onwards, every piece of knowledge, information, or experience that you acquire in your life is a raindrop falling on that mountain. Now, fast forward a few years, even as a young child, you've acquired so much knowledge, information in your life. And because your brain is this self-organizing mechanism that's striving for efficiency, it starts to cluster all of that stuff into areas of perceived similarities for ease of recall. I call this streams of consciousness. Okay, streams of consciousness are a good thing. The fact that I have a stream of consciousness based on all of my history and past of how to open door handles means that when I see a door that's closed that has a door handle, I am able to complete that task to get through it with very little brain power. Okay, the same with a sock. Imagine having to reappraise what a sock is every morning and how it works and how to apply it. We wouldn't be the high-performing human beings that we are. So they're good. They are largely a good thing for us. However, fast forward 30, 40, 50 years that you're alive or more, particularly in your areas of things like paid expertise, okay, where you have acquired so much knowledge, experience, and information. They are no longer, those raindrops are huge. There are no longer just streams of consciousness. They are deep, wide rivers of thinking. And here's the punchline. Rivers of thinking are brilliant when there's one right answer, because the answer's in there. The answer's probably in there somewhere. However, they are not good when there is more than one potential correct answer or way to deal with this situation. Because the deeper and wider those rivers are, the less likely it is for your brain to want to get out of them. And that's why we struggle to come up with new options to solve the situations we're in. The watch out is this. We've heard the language about echo chamber. Anyone that's read Matthew Syed's latest book, he talks about that language as well, the danger of being in an echo chamber where other people's voices are just an echo of your own. Well, this is what happens. This is that rivers of thinking on scale, en masse in organizations. These sheep have been herded all their life through gates. So what happens when they see a gate? They just go through it, even if there is no fence. Let that be a visual metaphor for us at work. How often do we go through the gates because it's the way it's always done, totally ignorant to the fact that there might be an easier, better, more efficient way of doing it? So come back to this study from NASA. So NASA, they had their own scores, and they thought, well, that's interesting. How do we index against other organisations? So they did that. They liked to see, well, what's the creative genius rank, title or percentage in other organisations? And then they went to other walks of life in general, including 5-year-olds, 5-year-old children. Okay, my question to you is, they tested 1,500 5-year-olds on the same test. Give me numbers. What percentage of these 1,500 5-year-olds do you think got the number of different uses for a paperclip that made them creative geniuses in NASA's mind? Give me a number. 80%? 4? And 98%. 98% of these 1,500 5-year-olds got that number, which was interesting, okay, and sort of very challenging to them. What they also did, because they're NASA, they then just said that we're going to retest these people over time. So as many of these 1,500 people that they could keep hold of and track, they retested them again every 10 years when they were 15, 25, and 35. Same people. 1,500 children, now 35. What percentage of them at 35 doing the same test got the number that was creative genius status? 2%. 2%. It's a total coincidence. It's 98 and 2. So, and maybe we're not surprised, right, about that. But what it led Beth Yarman and George Land to conclude is that non-creative behaviour is learnt. And I used to agree with this. Okay, we all watch the works of Sir Ken Robinson and the impact of education on us and so on. But I've changed my mind. And far be it from me to question NASA, but I'm going to have a go. And so because what this suggests is that the behaviour that we learn is non-creative. Okay, by default, that's the expression. I think the behaviour that we learn is as crucial to creativity as other behaviours. There are two modes of thinking critical to creativity. And the one we learn over time is reductive thinking, the ability to analyse, judge, and make decisions. Okay? And that's what we learn, particularly at school and then into the workplace as well. The problem is that we learn that. If we don't have that, by the way, you don't have creativity, you have chaos. You just have people walking around the office stroking beards going, you know, what if we did this and what if we did that? And nothing good happens. It's only with this mode of thinking that you actually make decisions, that you actually assess the viability of the ideas that you've come up with and will they work, and you put things into action. Okay, so to suggest that this is non-creative, and for years we've all probably been in workshops and trainings where we're told that this is really bad and we shouldn't do it. We need it. We need about 85% of our time to be in this mode, otherwise we would fail. But the problem is that we learn this at the expense of this, which is expansive thinking. Okay, our ability to generate possibility and options to help us make those better decisions. And that's what we inherently have, I guess, as children. It's a bit theoretical. I'll give you, this is the kind of the picture that whenever people take photos, they always take a photo of this. You don't have to, I won't be offended. But whatever it is we're doing, we have to end in this mode of thinking. Okay, it could be big, right? What are we doing for 2022, strategic planning, whatever it is, big new direction. We have to end in this mode of thinking. We have to make decisions, judge, analyse, decide what we're going to do, and then execute flawlessly is the piece that's not in there. It might be an hour-long meeting. We've got a code red. How are we going to solve this problem? We have to end in this mode of thinking. It might be 10 minutes over coffee. I'm running the all hands next week. I need an opening slide that's going to get people's attention. What's it going to be? We need to end with making a decision. You see where I'm going here? I hope you will agree that this will only ever be better informed by some of this. People ask me, how do we know we've come up with the best ideas? You never will. You can never categorically say we've got the best solution to solve that challenge. All you can do is bring more confidence to the decisions you make by the options that you're working with. And here's where I try and relate it to your world, if you like. And as Sam said, I'm not here to be in your echo chamber. I'm here to offer you provocation from outside of it. I don't work in real estate and workspaces at Google. I don't work in design. I've helped with projects, but I don't work in that space. So this is my ignorance, if you like, allowing me to be a naive expert. Let's call it that. My lack of an understanding of your world allows me to offer a perspective that might be a bit different. So how do we then translate this to the workplace and the environments we create? I would say we naturally design for that. And I think actually, and we've used different language, but both of the speakers before me have kind of said a very similar thing. So how do we ensure that we are designing spaces that allow us to also do this. So I'll just click on from that. So a quick question. Well, let me ask you, where are you when you do your best thinking? Shout it out. Shower. Number one answer in the world is the shower. Number two is the toilet. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, number one answer in the world. Actually, what we tried to do with England rugby players was to feed their data, write their data in washable pens on the shower glass of their hotel room, just because we were like, well, maybe that's a good place where they'll naturally think about it and process it more. You know, it's quite hard to measure that, but there you go. So we've even sort of lent into the fact that shower is number one answer in the world. What else? Doorstep. Doorstep. Tell me a bit more about that. In the Chilterns? Yeah, good. Of course. And that's just your spot. Lovely, beautiful. Oh, wow, that is a great one. What's over here?
And when you're trying to sleep.
Yeah, well, just when you've done your day's work and you're like, right, that's it, I'm going to switch off, and then you have ideas. Any others? Walking, yeah, repetitive physical motion of lots of kinds, cycling, walking, running, lots of stuff there. Anything else? Yeah, right. When I have no intention of actually solving the problem that I'm working on. Apologies for not listening to more. But it's no coincidence it's no coincidence that you say the places you say. It's also no coincidence that nobody ever says at my desk in front of my computer with the face of doom, because of the deadline or the pressure or the importance of the task I'm working on. In fact, for most people, historically, actually, I haven't done the test through lockdown, but most people would say it's anywhere but at work. We are hearing that change. We heard that change at Google. We heard that change a lot before lockdown even. People would say, when I'm just whiteboarding with other smart people, the coffee after lunch, when we're just kicking stuff around. No coincidence, again, linked to some of Nigel's thinking around an introvert profile of that ability to get away from my space on my own and just have those social interactions. But there's a real science as to why we say the places that we say, and I'm just going to give you this science now. I am not a brain scientist. I've partnered with some brilliant ones. So, but I take a lot of confidence in what I'm about to share as being factually correct, because I spoke at a conference for Roche once, the pharmaceutical company, and I asked the audience, I said, is anyone here a brain expert? And 300 people put their hands up. One of their blockbuster drugs is a neurology drug. There was 300 neurochemists in the room. And so I was like, oh, shit, sorry. And but I was getting coffee after. I did the session, I was getting coffee after, and one of the chemists came up to me, and she was very generous. She started just getting coffee next to me, and she said, oh, just so you know, everything you just shared was factually correct. I was like, oh, thank God. As she walked away with coffee to her lips, she went, albeit very basic. So that's what you're getting now. In the interest of just 5 minutes to go before the break, I'm just going to share with you a bit of summary thinking that I hope will just help you to go, well, how do we make sure that we ground what we're doing a bit more in this when we're thinking about design and workspace environments. So our brain can be sliced and diced in lots of ways. One way is the conscious and the subconscious. The conscious brain is just 15% of our brain. Okay, it's the doing part, it's the bit that does stuff. The other 85% is subconscious. Okay, it's where all of our rivers of thinking exist. All of our knowledge, information, experience lives in there somewhere. So it makes sense, right? New ideas come when our conscious brain is able to access stuff in the subconscious and make fresh connections. The conscious and the subconscious brain is connected by the reticular activating system, okay, the RAS. It's not a doorway, but it's a nice metaphor to use. Imagine a doorway. How open or closed that doorway is dictates the ability for your conscious brain to access new and different stuff from the subconscious. How open or closed that doorway is depends on your brain state at any given moment. There are 900 plus different articulations of brain states. We're not going to go through them. You'll be pleased to know. I'm just going to very quickly give you the four headlines of buckets of states that we will be in at any point given a normal 24-hour cycle. And the first, we're going to go dark to start, okay, and then I'll bring you out on a high. So the first is beta, okay, also known as busy beta. In this brain state, the doorway is fully closed. Scientifically impossible for your conscious brain to have any new connections from your subconscious. So the only stuff you're working with is that autopilot brain based on how things were done in the past. Okay, that brain's efficiency to just get you through the situation. This is unfortunately, the brain state we are in too much of the time at work. Ever heard the expression, I'm too busy to think? That's what's going on in here, okay? So this is, trying to multitask. We can't multitask, by the way, we multi-fail. And lots of studies to prove that. We can only multitask effectively if the secondary task is a passive one. Shower, running, walking, listening to music, etc. And I'll come back to that in a second. But if you're actively trying to focus on two things that require full attention, you do neither of them as well as you might. So this is the one that we're trying to get out of. It's hard, right? Because being busy has become such a big badge of honor that it's a superhero now. And like, how are you busy? Super busy. Super busy. Unless it's your boss asking you, in which case you go, good busy. Good busy. I'm good busy, right? But it's like, I was at a learning conference a couple of years ago. I've stolen this from Pride. It's not my language. Stolen this with Pride. It's not my language. Busy is the new stupid. And on that level of us being employed as knowledge workers to come up with new ideas to solve the challenges that we're working on, well, that would make sense, right? That would make sense. So how do we get out of this? Well, actually, what we're looking for is just a little bit of alpha. Okay, the doorway is the brain has just slowed down just a little bit, okay? And it's allowed the doorway to open just a touch, but more than enough for fresh connections to be made between the conscious and subconscious. This is the frequency. This is the frequency we are in when we're laughing, when we're smiling. Natural light, fresh air, some of the stuff again that we heard about the sort of history of our psychology of what makes us feel, being able to see the time go past, if you like. 3 deep breaths is enough to take you from beta into alpha. Okay, it's that sort of calmness under pressure. People ask me who are the most creative people in the world. It are people that are practiced at staying here when the rest of us might fall into beta. That calmness under pressure. Because some people say, deadlines are good. I like deadlines. It helps me to focus and to come up with ideas. It's because actually a deadline isn't a trigger for that person to fall into beta, that it might be for others. So this is all about singular focus but relaxed. It's called task positive state. You're actively thinking about the task at hand, but singular focus and relax. You see where I'm going here with the, things like technology and those distractions. How do we get rid of distraction? And then we've got theta. Doorway open a little bit more. Again, some brilliant stuff. Now, theta's quite a big spectrum. Deep theta is early stages of sleep, just as you're falling asleep. Hallucinogenic drugs, things like that. Meditation, deep meditation. That I'm not advocating I'm not advocating hallucinogenic drugs. Deep theta. Shallow theta, just anything that allows your mind to wander. So the shower, the just, occupying your brain with another task. Why people talk about cooking and cleaning or doing the gardening is their creative release. It just allows their brain just to get on and do some thinking in the background. This is your brain's most effective creative mode. Okay, it's task negative state, but it is your default neural mode. You naturally make fresh connections, you get out of your rivers of thinking, and you have new ideas, as you said, when you least expect it in this mode. I'll give you the headline of the slide. I'm getting to the end shortly. How do we just allow? How do we design for a bit more of this? But there are some watch-outs around this. And just to give some credit to the fourth one, which is delta. Doorway fully open, we're fast asleep. Okay. Previously, I would just go, there's nothing we can do about that. So let's not talk anymore. Just value sleep. But actually, I think there is lots more we can do about that. Firstly, let's not undervalue the power of rest and recovery. I don't know a workplace that truly has great ability for rest and recovery. The 2-hour kit before you start work, like where did that happen? I hope it was in a lovely bed with some nice 500 thread count Egyptian cotton sheets. Probably wasn't. It was probably a little... Yeah, at his desk, there you go. But also as well, we are learning more every day about the brain. Paul McCartney, any Beatles fans Paul McCartney famously wrote the lyrics and music to things like Let It Be in his sleep, and it was just seen as creative genius. Actually, we are learning about some science that might have allowed things like that to happen. So what can we do? Well, firstly, how do we allow, just a couple of provocations for you, how do we create environments that just allow us to have that cognitive cleanse between the busyness? between the business, whether it's at home or in our office space. What do we do that just allow us just to chunk up our day, just running from one thing to another? There's a brilliant piece of work by a professor called Why Is It So Hard to Do My Work? It inspired the book by Cal Newport, Deep Thinking, which is all about just that cognitive residue that builds up throughout the day of this busyness of going from one task to another. We have to allow for people to have these kind of cognitive cleanses between meetings. You know, I guess push for you. How do we create deliberate distractions that means that somebody stops for 2 minutes just from walking from one meeting room to the next, or from one desk space to the next, that forces that to happen. More toilets, more distributed over the property. That could be one. Just actually giving yourself 2 minutes to go for a wee could have a positive impact on that. But maybe just also have this. If we do our best thinking, our best thinking when we least expect it, well, maybe just be a bit more deliberate about thinking. Right, how do we, hands up who's got a to-do list? Who's got a to-do list? Yeah, of course we do, I do. Who's got a to think about list? Less hands, so some hands, but less hands, okay? The future of work is not about us doing stuff, okay? That's where we won't add as much value. That's where technology and automation is going to play a greater part in all of our jobs. Our ability to think and think differently is where we will continue to add lots and lots of value. So how do we allow that to happen? Have a to think about list. Good news is, it doesn't ever have to be as long as a to-do list. One thing on it at any point. But give it a go. Write something down and then just step away. And you'll be surprised. If you challenge yourself to say, have I solved that problem that I've been working on for 10 years, you'll be disappointed. If you ask yourself, have I got some movement in my thinking by just letting it gestate for the weekend, I think you'll be positively surprised. Just 3 things then I think to think about for this, just to end. How do we facilitate more deliberate thinking time? Okay, and this is where I challenge even things like Google. So Google sleep pods. Okay, that is a sleep pods, 20 minutes. They're designed to put you in theta. Most adult human beings don't fall into a delta in 20 minutes. That's why we have sleep pods. Okay, to allow people just to have that. What happens? People go in them and do their emails. They're in busy beta and they're sitting in there. So what can we do to the environment? My idea is always just stick copper wiring around the walls of rooms that you can run an electric current through that blocks Wi-Fi signal, right? So sleep pods, brilliant, or that type of environment, but misuse, right? How do we avoid the misuse? How do we go that step further to force people? Because not all employees are really up for this. But they're normally the ones that can retire in 5 years and probably already got to where they want to get to. But when we do our designing for space and environments where we want people to do great work together, how do we again just make it? I think this is, hopefully this offers you just a different way of looking at it. Focused but relaxed, singular focused but a relaxed environment. And then lastly, just to recognise, and I've not spoken about it because of time, you need a break. We just recognising that we are all different. Again, we aren't average. We all think about our circadian rhythms. Who here does their best thinking first thing in the morning? On the door, on the step. Yeah, I'd be on your wooden step doing that at 5 a.m. I'm an extreme morning lark. But who's a night owl? Right. Okay. So you get again, and are we designing for that? Again, at Google, breakfast and lunch provided. Okay, not dinner. Weird, right? So again, we are falling into those rivers of thinking around, okay, so we'll get people to get them in and have breakfast, but actually some people might not want to come in till 4 in the afternoon, but work till at night. So even in a very fortunate environment like us, where we have food and refreshments, how do we ensure that we're designing around the fact that everybody works slightly differently? Because if we don't, we can be really productive if productive is about getting stuff done, but we won't be having any new ideas that help us to be competitive and have impact. It's simply about being deliberate, is all I would say. Just being sure, how do we get our environments to help signpost to people how we should be at any moment in time. Thank you so much for listening. I know I've overrun slightly.
Excellent. Any questions for Kirk? Please.
So you talked about you work with Miller Weaver. The theta pattern way is when athletes say they are in that zone. Lewis Hamilton. Have you found that when you're talking to them about how they perform at their best, they usually feel like they're in that theta area?
Yeah. So listen. I think most environments outside of the business, the corporate world, are just far better at valuing theta state. So that is just that I'm putting time. Imagine in the corporate world, leaders putting 2 hours in their diary, just going, I'm just going to go and push my kids on the swings and go and play a bit of golf, right? And just to do that. I mean, the golf thing does happen, but for different justification. And I think other worlds just recognise, what's great about sport is I get paid by improving. And so I will do things that allow me to improve, to think differently, to have that thinking space, just to let stuff gestate for a while and think it through. In business, people just don't feel like they're getting rewarded for that. And it's right, and nor should we. No one should go to their appraiser and go, do you know how many hours of thinking I've done this period? Give me a great appraisal score. But what we do need to do is help people to realise that the quality of your output will only be influenced by valuing more time in theta as part of your process. So back to that, to think about this. What problem have you got? Spend a bit of time kicking it around consciously, grab a thinking partner, kick it about, but then don't try and get reductive, just leave it. Go home for the night, go home for the weekend, and just let stuff gestate, and then come back to it on Monday and go, where's my thinking now? So I just think that other worlds are far better. They either focus more on the end output and they're less bothered about the ingredient parts. For us at work, it's that presenteeism. How busy am I looking today? How much impact? If I do this, am I adding value? That's our problem in most office-based environments, I would say. I hope that answers it. Yeah.
Great. We have a question there, John, first. We'll come to you next.
So my question is about workplace and your thought on how we would get new talent trained when our networking stage is at home or in a coffee shop and working in a non-physical environment, because I feel we absorb a lot of our learning from conversations that are happening around us, and how you feel we could solve that problem as workplace strategists or designers.
Yeah, so a couple of things. Firstly, I used to say, go to work with your to-do list and go home with your to think about list, because most office environments are not conducive to the theta state, to the just gestation and just kicking stuff around, or just those serendipitous moments of bumping into it. I've actually changed now. I think COVID has led that to change, because most people are at home. Stay at home. You can get 2 hours extra time done because you're not commuting by just doing emails or putting the deck together. Go to work and go and seek collisions. Go and seek those casual collisions. So we have to. So I actually think there's a significant shift in how we view the workspace. And I feel like I'm patronising you by even saying this, but it's not going to be about lots of rows of desks, because the most cheapest desk for any organisation is someone's home desk, right? For the organisation, might be different for the employee, but for the organisation. So how do we? Even now, I'm starting to go back to work, to Google and into other environments, and you're still seeing a lot of people just sitting there. They're the one person in the space of 50 desks at their desks doing work. I'm like, just go and walk around, just go and bump into people. So I think that's the big push that I would have there. And then if you've heard of Khan Academy, so like for long, they're an online learning organisation, and they've long had this belief that you can be lectured from anywhere. Right, and let's be really clever and use technology to do that. Let's come together to do the coursework, or in the case of business, it's the so what, if you like. So I think it's the same point. I think maybe we have to. I actually think it's turned totally on its axis about how we think about the space that we use for different types of work.
Great, John.
I think you've almost answered my question, to be honest, because what I've noticed is that people doing meeting after meeting after meeting at home in their environment means they don't move, and they can take one meeting up to the last minute or often beyond the next one, and that cognitive cleanse that you talked about, where you used to get in the office walking between offices and saying hi to Fred or Bert or Mary, just doesn't happen.
Yeah, we got that question online as well just now. That is the lack of cognitive cleanse a reason why people are continuing to struggle working from home?
I would say I don't represent Google here today. His thoughts and opinions are mine. Absolute firm conviction of that. I almost feel like we didn't know how lucky we were, or that everything's relative. So of course, before COVID, that felt like, oh my God, I'm running from one meeting room to another. Google tried to have the 50-minute rule, so meetings would, if an hour meeting, it would default to 50 minutes. Now that requires people to adhere to it, and not many people adhered to it, but certain leaders did, and that was brilliant. I need 10 minutes between this meeting because I've got to get to another meeting room and I want to get a coffee, go for a wee, and I want to just process and get my brain into the gear for what's next. Now, technology, and we're as guilty of it, you don't even have to press 2 buttons. You don't have to end this call and go another one. It tells you, it says you've got another meeting next. Do you want to go there now? You press 1 button and you're there. So absolutely, just that ability to chunk. That was why the cognitive cleanse, the great, create a grapefruit segment. I know it's been said lots of times before, and it's easier said than done. I don't have the pressure that Nigel has. I don't have to give you ideas. I just have to present the problem and provoke you to think of it differently about it. But 100%, it's. I didn't think it could get any worse. And home working, and guess what? That is why we are fried. I was designing training programs online that were 4 hours in January, and it felt like that was okay. The feedback scores are going down because of just time. People will tolerate an hour now, and that's it. Then we need a break. So yeah.
On that note, I think we all need a break because we've been here an hour and 40 minutes.